Well, our first question comes from JB. Thanks for sending this in. And he says, I just saw The World's End again and was laughing all the way through the movie. Just wanted to say that this movie is the funniest film I've seen in years, and it stands as a good action film, maybe one of the top action flicks this year. I'm wondering why consumers haven't been drawn to the film. Like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, they both didn't make much at the box office, but they're consistent with the humor, themes, and even the music in the films are proper choices. Do you think it's a subtle humor that turns people off?
You bring up a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Why do some great films come out like A World's End? And I liked it very much. I'm not going to say it's one of my top 3 favorites of the year or anything like that, but I liked it very much as another solid outing by Frost, Pegg, and Edgar Wright, obviously. There could be a number of elements involved here. Number one, it is British. It is English, and not everybody's into English humor. Not everybody. And, you know, as much as a lot of us in certain circles really know Simon Pegg and love Simon Pegg and recognize him instantly, to a lot of people, he's still just that guy who plays Scotty in Star Trek, which is kind of unfortunate because he's much more than just that, even though he's completely amazing in Star Trek. Mm-hmm. But you bring up, this gets me onto something here. Forgive me if I rant on this just for a second. You bring up a great point. It's like we get great original films and that don't do great. I mean, even we just had Joseph Gordon-Levitt in our office, which reminded me of the fact that, you know, Looper came out last year, was a great film that nobody went to go see. Had big stars, you know, you had Bruce Willis, you got a great director in Rian Johnson, you got Joseph Gordon-Levitt in there. It's sci-fi action, very original, I mean, compared to what we normally see at any rate, and nobody goes to see it. This really irritates me a lot, especially when I hop on movie chat boards. And once again, forgive me if I go off on this for just a second, but I hop on these movie chat boards quite often, right? And say somebody will announce, oh, they're going to do another Hobbit film. Okay, and inevitably, what you will always see, whenever you see a sequel named or a remake named, you will see in some chat board some pretentious idiot who thinks they know something, who thinks they're sounding really smart by being the first guy ever to go, I guess Hollywood's run out of ideas. And they always think they're so smart when they say that. The reality is, you pretentious nit, is the fact that more feature films are made today than in the history of the industry, okay? Like over 900 feature films are going to be produced this year. Not all of them in every theater across the nation, not at all. But there are more films made every year, and there are more original films made every year than in any time in history. But that also means there's also more sequels and reboots and things like that as well. Okay, simple, right? Simple to understand? Yeah, apparently not. Because you still get these people who say, oh, we want more originality in Hollywood. Well, guess what? You're the same frickin' idiot who won't go and support the original films when they come out in the first place. Because we get a lot of these great original films that do come out and nobody goes to see them. And then what do? The pretentious idiots who sit back and think they know something? They'll say, oh, it was the studio's fault for not marketing it properly. No, it's because you didn't go out and support it. Or because there wasn't a desire for it. Look, ultimately when it comes down to it, studios are in the business of meeting what the market wants. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. And when $700 million worth of people go and see The Amazing Spider-Man, that is the market telling the studios we want more Spider-Man, okay? When $1 billion worth of people go to see The Avengers, that is the market telling the studios we want to see more of this. But the opposite is true as well. When a movie like The World's End comes out, and $21 million worth of people go to see it, that is a message the market sends to the studio saying, we're not interested, which is really, really unfortunate. But being the nits that we are, we think we're being really smart when we try to stick it to the man. That's really always the last resort of the weak, is saying it's the man's fault. We try to say somehow it's the studio's fault. It's the studio's responsibility. No, it's the studio's responsibility to put out the things that the audience wants to see. That's what it's all about. And then studios take those huge multi-million dollars worth of profits, and then they do put out smaller independent and original films, hoping that we will go out and support it. And most of the time it doesn't happen. Sometimes it does. But this whole notion about, they're making it based off a comic book. There's no originality left in Hollywood. Oh, they're making it based off a novel. Oh, there's no originality left in Hollywood. Give me a break. Every story starts with a writer sitting down and writing a story. Doesn't matter if it's a screenplay, a comic book, or a novel. Every story starts the same. A writer sitting down and writing a story. Sometimes they make movies out of it. And sometimes they make original movies like World's End that people don't go out and support, and it's really frustrating. Anyway, that's my elongated answer to that. Amy Rose, you have a more positive outlook on this than I do?
John, I wish we were in the same room. I'd give you a big hug, buddy. You sound like you need it. Well, back to the original question. Why do we think movies like this don't do well? British humor is subtle sometimes. It's oddball, it's quirky. That's what I love about it personally. And for a film like this, The World's End did disappoint me. I still thought it was a good movie. I thought it was packed with a lot of, great characters and originality and an interesting story, but it did fall a little flat for me in the end. I'd say the last 30 minutes. They did wrap it back up, but yeah, it definitely, Shaun of the Dead I thought was a near perfect film. I loved that movie, and Hot Fuzz was great too, but this is definitely my least favorite of the trilogy, but I still thought it was good. I think a lot of people kind of felt that way. It started off really hot, and then the more people that saw it, people were like, yeah, it's good, but I feel like he's raised the bar so high for his trilogy that it did disappoint me because I went in with higher expectations than I like. But yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of movies that we love that don't get a lot of eyeballs. One of my favorite movies of the year, Mud, Place Beyond the Pines. These are all movies that only gain steam with word of mouth after someone sees something really special in them. But if you look at their box office returns, they're not that high either. Most of the films that really speak to me like that don't make a ton of money. Unfortunately, that's just the way we're at. And I do agree, there's a ton of remakes and sequels and all of this that happens. But as John, as you pointed out, there's a demand. A lot of people didn't want to see Mark Webb tackle The Amazing Spider-Man because we all felt that Sam Raimi did a really solid job with his trilogy. But it made a lot of money, and they're going to keep going. There's even 4 slated. So, there's a true thing to the market. It's supply and demand. And for British humor, The Office was a British TV show. There's a lot of those that they come over to the States, and, a lot of people will say, well, the British version was better, but, for the most part, someone even realized. House of Cards was a British TV show as well, and a lot of the times we steal from them, and then we put our Americanized spin on it, and that's what happens. So, yeah, there's a certain reality. Studios are not dumb. They, that I think we're seeing what's happening with Ben Affleck. He's making movies that are a little more indie in feel, but that they appeal to the wider audience. So the formula can match that. And him being Batman in the upcoming film, and then he'll get to do more of his passion projects. So there's a middle ground. So the studios know what they're doing. Put your money where your mouth is and support those films that you really want to see. And hopefully enough people do the same, that they'll keep making these original films. Because I agree, Edgar Wright's a great filmmaker.
Right on. One of the things I love so much about being on AMC is hearing the opinions of these amazing people, because I agree 100% of everything that they just said. And 2 of my favorite comedies, first of all, I love The World's End. This summer were To-Do List and Frances Ha, which also didn't...
I love To-Do List.
So good. So well written, too. I want to see more movies like that. I want to see smaller indie-type films do well. But as a consumer, you guys do have that power. So support the films that you want to see and the films that you want to see more of, because as John Amuro said, it's a message that you're sending to the industry. So be sure to, put your money where your mouth is and see the things that you want to see more of.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news, and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.